everybody, I'm Chef Dennis Berry. Welcome back to Culinary Fitness. This is a very exciting thing we're about to do here. We're gonna make some braised short ribs. It's everybody's favorite, right? Look at these guys, okay? The reason they're really so popular is because they're really, look at that marbling in there. That's all flavor, right? That's like fat that's marbled throughout the meat. And when we cook that, it melts into the meat and into the sauce, and it just gives an incredibly rich flavor. So these short ribs come from the big part of the prime rib, right? Where the ribs are, right here, okay? And that's what makes them just so delicious, okay? So to cook these guys and get the most flavor, let's get started by cooking some bacon, okay? The reason we're gonna do this, and I cut these into little pieces, and they're called like lardons, right? So basically what we're gonna do with these is we're gonna render the fat out, we're gonna get the bacon nice and crispy, and then at the end of the dish we're gonna garnish the short ribs with the bacon and mushrooms and scallions, and it's gonna be just over the top, okay? So let's get these into our pan, all right? And we're gonna get this process going because this is gonna take about 10 minutes for the bacon to get nice and crispy, okay? Woo! We're cooking here, man. I had that pan getting hot there for a little while. So, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna end up braising these short ribs, right? So braising is a two-part cooking method where first we're gonna sear it on top of the stove over direct heat, and then we're gonna finish it in the oven in a liquid, right? So there's a liquid cooking method. We have a dry heat method and a liquid cooking method that we're gonna combine together, and that's gonna give these short ribs, that's gonna make them just tender, moist, and delicious, okay? So it takes about 2.5 hours or so, 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on how many you have and how thick they are, right? These are nice, big, meaty ribs. So once this bacon gets rendered down and nice and crisp, we're gonna take that out, reserve the bacon, and we're gonna keep the fat in there, and then we're gonna sear these off. Okay, cool. So in the meantime, let's let the bacon get crispy, and we'll come back in just a second. All right, everybody, so it's been about 10 minutes now, so let's check out this bacon, right? So we got it nice and crispy, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take it out. Now look, I like to use this paper bag with a paper towel here, and we could drain the fat off of the bacon, but we're gonna leave the bacon in the pan. So I'm using a spider here. That's what we call a spider. So it's great for getting things out of boiling water or getting stuff, in this case, pulling the bacon out of the fat, right? So you're not using a spoon, where the spoon, you're gonna collect a lot of the liquid or the fat. So the spider really just drains it all. So it's really an excellent tool, and I highly recommend getting one. So look at that, we're gonna have our crispy bacon here. We're gonna get the pan back on the stove here, and now we're gonna salt and pepper. We gotta season our short ribs, right? And we gotta season them on all the sides. We want this to have a lot of flavor. So I know this is a little bit more work than a lot of the dishes that you would normally cook, but if you take these steps to do this and do the searing, get a good sear and good flavor on the meat, you are gonna be very grateful, right? Because searing in the flavor and the juices into the meat while getting a nice caramelized color on the short ribs is just gonna, it just gives the sauce, the whole dish, an incredible flavor. So let's get some more pepper on all the sides here, right? You're gonna eat all the sides, so you gotta season all the sides. Isn't that the rule? All right. So now we have our pan on medium-high heat. We have our short ribs seasoned. Let's get these in the pan. So I'm gonna do these in 2 batches because you don't wanna overcrowd your pan. If I was to put all 7 of these into the pan, it would pretty much end up like boiling the meat, because a lot of the liquid comes out of the meat while you're doing this. So if you let the liquid along with the oil, it'll just end up not getting a nice sear. It'll just end up like boiling. So we're gonna do this in 2 different batches, okay? And we're gonna get a nice brown caramelized color on these ribs. Look at how this is cooking, isn't that beautiful? So while those are searing, look what I have here on the side, right? I have some onions that I chopped up and some mushrooms. this is just how I like my short ribs. So I also have some red wine here. Now you can use really whatever kind of red wine you want. I like to I always tell people, you know, if you're gonna use a wine in a dish, a red wine or a white wine, make it something that you enjoy drinking. So that way the flavor of the wine matches the flavor of the food, right? And that's a perfect pairing. That's how people do that. So I'm gonna use this this Zamba Malbec. It's a nice red wine from Argentina, and it's gonna go nice with this dish, okay? So I have some garlic, onions, mushrooms, and some tomato paste, which is gonna give a nice thick, rich body to the sauce at the end of the day, right? So after the 2.5, 3 hour process, this is gonna cook down really slow in the oven, and it's gonna make this beautiful, velvety, rich sauce, okay? And I have some fresh parsley we'll throw in at the end, and also we're gonna have some green onions on the end as well. And I have some beef stock here. If you have some beef stock to use, that's awesome. Use some beef stock, right? Nowadays you can buy it in the store. I prefer to make it because I do this all the time. If you can't, chicken stock will work fine. If you don't have either, water will work, but it just won't be as perfect, okay? But it will be delicious, okay? So now look at this. These are a great meat to sear because they're square. So it's kind of easy. Look at the color that we're getting on there, right? So you want to take your time on this. Let's get all these sides seared, get a nice rich color on all these sides, and then we'll see what this looks like in a minute, okay? All right guys, we're cooking now. You should see how smoky it is in here. We have been doing some good stuff. So let me show you here. Look at the sear on this, right? Can you see how nice and dark and rich the flavor is on the meat there? That is just gonna provide so much flavor for the dish. You know, it's an extra step, and it takes about 10 minutes to get it done properly, but the rewards are gonna be incredible, okay? So now what we wanna do, and let's get this in the oven, right? So I have some oil here. You can use whatever kind, you know, I'm using olive oil here, but you can use canola oil if you want, or whichever works best for you. So I'm gonna just give these onions a quick saute. And I'm also going to throw the mushrooms in there. The mushrooms are going to soak up a lot of that oil. We'll get the garlic in there. This part goes pretty quick. But, oh my God, my house, I mean, if you could smell it in here, you wouldn't believe it, right? It smells like you're in just a beautiful oven of rich, flavorful food. I love that. All right, I know I'm a dork. You can make fun of me later. But, all right, so we have this going. Let's get a little more salt in there, a little more fresh pepper. Remember, the idea in here, whenever we're cooking, we want to build layers of flavor, okay? So that's what we're doing. Every time you add a layer of flavor, make sure that it tastes good, right? So if you're adding a new layer, we just added some onions, some vegetables. We want to make that taste good. And then we're going to add another layer. And then we're going to make sure that that layer tastes good. And all of a sudden at the end, you're going to have a dish that comes together and it's just going to taste great. So look, now I have some tomato puree. Now this is going to give it just an excellent, well-rounded flavor, right? When the sauce comes together at the end. So I'm going to put that in there now, and it's going to kind of like cook a little bit. It's going to get caramelized. There's sugar in that tomato, and we want that to cook a little bit. And it's going to coat all these vegetables. Oh my God, guys, I can't wait to taste this. Okay, so look at that. So another layer of flavor, right? By cooking the tomato, we've caramelized our meat, which is right here. Now we're caramelizing that tomato puree, and then we're gonna have this all come together with the wine and the stock in the oven. You're not gonna believe it. All right. You can smell the caramelization coming off of the tomato puree. Like you could smell how much sweeter it is, okay? Oh, just beautiful. Now you can hear it sizzling a little bit. That means it's getting really rich and deep flavor. So now, we're gonna get our beef stock in. Remember, I have time to make this beef stock. If you don't, it's okay. You know, you can use chicken stock, you can use water, and then we're gonna use about a cup of this red wine. Don't drink all the wine, you gotta put some into the food. Remember that rule, okay? All right, look at this. Now we're gonna get our meat back in here. Look at this. I wanted to add that stock, all that liquid, the stock and the wine in layers. I want to make sure that it's not too much, right? That is just about perfect, right? You want it to come up about 3/4, a half to 3/4 of a way up the ribs, right? You don't want to cover them and boil the meat, right? You just want it to come up about 1/2 to 3/4 of a way up the meat. Cool. So now what we're gonna do, we got this heat, let's shut the heat off. We're gonna cover this with foil. And you wanna get a nice strong cover on here because you don't want it to escape. You don't want all the steam to escape. And then at the end, we're gonna take this foil off and we're gonna let it cook, okay? And we'll let a lot of the liquid evaporate. The sauce will get nice and thick. And I'm just gonna stick this right into the oven like this. Okay guys, so it has been a few hours now and I'll tell you, my mouth is watering. I've been anxious all afternoon to try these things. This is gonna knock your socks off. So let's recap, okay? So we had them in the oven with the foil on at 350 degrees for 2 hours, okay? After that, we took the foil off and I put it back in the oven after I turned them 1 time. And now, the sauce has reduced by about half, right? And so it got nice and thick and flavorful. So we're gonna take it out. I'm gonna strain the sauce. I'm gonna show you guys what this looks like. Look at this. Holy goodness, okay? Look at that. You see? This is where the searing really is paying off, right? So we got it so these ribs got nice and caramelized. The meat on here is unbelievable. You're not gonna believe how good this tastes, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. I am going to take these ribs out and I'm gonna put them on this plate. Look at this bone is like falling apart there. You see that? Beautiful. Okay, so let me get these out. Look, the bone just fell out. Isn't that awesome? So, earlier I said that it's okay if you don't have beef stock to use as the liquid to put in here, because in essence what you're doing is making a stock. We had the bones here, we put in some carrots, onions, and celery, and we put in some mushrooms, and we put in some aromatic herbs, right? And then the result is we have basically this sauce here, and we put in some tomato to help thicken it up, some tomato paste, right? So look, I have this strainer here. I'm gonna strain this right into a pot, and we're gonna strain this sauce, get it all through here. I'm gonna take the mushrooms out because we want to eat those, right? In fact, we might eat everything in here. So let me grab a spoon. Here's the spoon I wanted. See, I'm just gonna push all this sauce through the sieve here. Okay, so now what we wanna do is I wanna have, if you look in here, it's pretty fatty, right? There's a lot of fat that came off. So we're gonna strain that off, and we'll get as much as that off as we can. And here's how we do that, right? So let's take a bowl, and then what we do is we just take this ladle and I swirl it around. Hopefully you can see that. And then I just go the other way and I pull out the fat. Can you see how much fat is in there? So we swirl in the middle, and you take your ladle and scoop the fat out. Swirl, scoop the fat. Look at all that. See? All right, good. So we got all the fat off of there. So now what we need to do is we need to taste this sauce, and we need to see and adjust the seasonings accordingly, right? Because when I was originally doing this, I put a light amount of salt. And because this cooks down and cooks over a long period of time, flavors concentrate. So if I was to put a lot of salt in here, it might end up being very salty. So I went pretty light on here, so let's have a taste. All right, so that is delicious, but it needs a little more salt. Right, let's give it some salt and some pepper. And let's give that a little mix. I also want to throw in some fresh parsley that I have chopped up here. All right, just a little bit of that. We don't want to overpower it. We just want to give it a little bright, fresh flavor, right? Awesomeness. So this is just unbelievable. So now, what we could do, if you're gonna serve it, plate it up individually, what you could do is, you know, have some mashed potatoes or some roasted potatoes or some brown rice or something like that. And you could plate those individually and pour the sauce on. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grab them, a couple of these ribs here, and look at this. You see how tender that meat is? I'm just gonna take a couple of them here. Okay, so look how beautiful those are. Now I'm gonna come over here and take my ladle. We're gonna get some of this unbelievable sauce on. Look at this. Can you see this? That naturally thickened sauce has that tomato paste in there. Oh my God, guys, you have to see this and smell this, okay? So let's go back over here and put the mushrooms around the plate here. Oh my Lord. Is your mouth watering? I can't even take it. As soon as this camera goes off, I'm gonna be eating all these things. Now I have, remember this bacon, this crunchy bacon that we made? I'm gonna put some of that over the top. And then I have some fresh green scallions here. Look at this, can you believe how this looks? Oh my God. Alrighty, now we're gonna finish this guy off right here with some fresh parsley garnish. Just really make it pop, make it look really nice before it hits the table. Look at this. Guys, look at this, right? So it's a little time consuming, a little more labor intense than some of the other projects that we've done in the past, but I mean, the payoff is unbelievable. You are totally gonna love this. Look, if you got confused or you have any questions or anything, let me know. I'll be happy to help you. Check this out, try them, let me know what you think. Have a wonderful day today, guys.